Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife review for you. Today we are looking at the Lionsteel T6. This is just going to be a quick introduction inside. The rest of this video will be outdoors doing some various wood processing with this knife and talking to you out there. But before we get out there, I just wanted to do a quick rundown of sort of the specs and the features on the knife. All right, so it's 11 and a half inches. It's actually just a hair over 11 and a half inches overall. So you can kind of get a sense, like it's not as big as like a Becker BK9 or, an SE Hunglis or something like that. It's not as small as the Lionsteel M4 or the Cold Steel Master Hunter, which are two of my favorite fixed blades of all time. This is kind of in that middle ground, and it's trying to kind of capture the best of both worlds. It sort of does that. We'll talk about that when we get outdoors a little further. Anyway, I'm trying to give you a sense for what 11 and a half inches means. The blade is 6 inches in length. It's got 5¼ inches of handle. By the way, that 5¼ inches does not include the exposed tang here at the tip. Grip area on this guy, and the grip is really, really cool, but the grip area itself is like 4 1/8, something in there, like depending on where you measure to, but you've got plenty of room for your hands. It can almost be 4 1/4 if you kind of come up here around this choil a little bit. So that gives you a good idea of the specs on this. It's over 13 ounces that you're lugging around with you, so you've got a fair bit of weight here. But in a second, when I turn this knife up, you'll understand why that is. Look at the thickness of this blade stock. It is insane, guys. So this is really, really meant to be a thick, heavy duty, overbuilt tank of a knife. Like this is the kind of knife that really can be called a real tank, or overbuilt, or ready for anything, whatever you want to call it. Like this is a heavy duty knife for sure. I want to stress that that's the design, that's the purpose. Okay. I do a bunch of cutting tasks with it, and so it does cut. I've done work in the kitchen with it. I've done outdoor stuff with it. I've gotten fires ready. I've split wood with it. I've gotten kindling ready. I've done, feather sticks with it. It can do all that, but it's definitely erring on the side of being overbuilt. Okay, the steel on this is K490, which is known for its toughness. Again, kind of in keeping with that whole theme of just being an absolute tank of a knife, and that's what this is. So you kind of need to know that going in. If you're expecting something that you can, do fine slicing tasks with, I mean, it'll do that, and I have sliced up some tomatoes and carrots and stuff with it, but that's not its calling in life. Okay. All right. So the other thing before we leave off the knife itself, I do want to quickly run through the features here so you can see Moletta design, great drop point blade with this top swedge. It is a crown spine, and that crowned that radiused finish extends all the way through the handle. We do have a sharp edge back here that you could use for a fire steel if you wanted. You could also use the portion up here in the by the ricasso. So there are some sharp edges that you could use to strike a fire steel. That's always helpful. The handle itself is something I want to touch on just for a minute because it's really, really cool. So very hand filling, very, very comfortable, great canvas micarta handle. This is my favorite color. I was fortunate in that when Justin over White Mountain Knives had these in stock, he had a few different colors, so I was able to pick the particular one that I liked the best, and that was definitely this sort of brownish canvas micarta. Really, really attractive. And the great thing about micarta, as many of you will know, is when it gets a little bit wet, if you're sweaty or if it's damp in the bush or anything like that, this doesn't lose any of its grippiness. In fact, it works even better. Now, K490 steel is not going to be a stainless steel. It's been pretty good. So I will say it's not like the most, what would you say? It doesn't rust immediately. It doesn't become a problem. You can see there's no rust on the edge here. There's a little bit of a patina forming right by my thumb, but I didn't really clean this up as well as I could have before sharing it with you. All right, so that's a quick rundown on the knife itself. I think we've pretty well covered everything here. Moving on to the sheath, we've got this really nice Kydex sheath, really good retention. Not only is there good retention on the Kydex itself, but then there's a button added as well to add a little bit of security. So if you wanted to carry this, you know, on a chest rig or something like that, or attached to a backpack, you could definitely do it. It's kind of naturally set up with a leg rope on it so that you could just, you know, stick it on your belt and carry it that way. And it does carry pretty nicely on a belt. That's, you know, primarily what I've done with it. For me, I have either carried this on a belt or put it directly in my backpack. So that's, you know, I don't have molly webbing on a vest or anything like that I could even attach it to if I wanted to. And attaching it to a backpack like that just means I've got to detach it later, so I don't bother. So for me, this has been either on my hip or in my backpack. Both of those I found pretty comfortable to carry. The retention, again, is really, really nice. The other thing I'll do before we leave and move over to the outdoor footage, just give this a quick shake so you can see there is some movement. If I move the sheath, I can get a little bit of movement, but if I just shake it, the retention is pretty good. All right. So I think that gives you enough data that we can go outside and everything that you see out there will kind of make sense and have a bit of context for it. All right. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know what you think of this knife down below. Do you prefer, this sort of lands between the T5 and the T7. And let me know what your philosophy is here. You know, this is a good one tool option. It's also good, you know, if you're the kind of guy who does a bit of camping or something like that, you can sort of have this available for those hikes where you think I might need more than just the Lionsteel M4. You might need more than, you know, a smaller, lighter fixed blade, but you don't want to carry an axe. All right. But it's still versatile enough that it can do a lot of the same stuff as the M4. And so, you know, it kind of adds I can see this fitting into a person's system pretty well. And certainly I have enjoyed carrying it quite a lot and plan to continue to do so. All right. Last note before we leave here is price point. I didn't really talk about that. These are fairly expensive, but I don't know. I think they're around $200. They might be more than that right now, but when they're available, they seem to be around $200, $250. For me, that's a pretty reasonable price point for the kind of knife you're getting here in this steel with this kind of fit and finish. I think that's a pretty reasonable price point. I know that's a little steep, and I know there are competitors that cost less, but there are also competitors that cost way, way more. And I would put this more in the class of a higher end fixed blade, like the fit and finish and the materials and everything else. It's really what you would expect from a very high end knife, but it doesn't have that crazy high end price point. So there you go, guys. That's my introduction. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the outdoor discussion, and that's where we'll go from here. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in a minute.
Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we've got a pretty cool fixed blade to check out, but before we do that, I thought I'd give you a little introduction of where we are. We moved spots and I've told the whole story. If you want to know the whole story, go ahead and check out the Bark River Trekker video where I kind of describe what happened to my old filming location. Anyway, we're in a different spot, mostly because there was a comfortable rock here to sit on and because there were a bunch of trees falling down. So I've cut up a few pieces that I can use for this video, and I used in a previous video as well. So it makes sense to use the same spot more than once, just because once I've done a bunch of cutting, there's all kinds of debris that I can use for testing. So I think you can also just sort of make out my dog. If you look sort of over, there you go, he's right by the end of my finger. He's just kind of exploring and sniffing around the area while I'm doing this filming. So that's enough. But all I'll say is the trail that you used to get in here, they kind of changed the location of it, and that meant that the old spot wasn't ideal for filming anymore. So let's go ahead and just pan down. There we go. I'll let you guys take a look at the knife that we're going to check out. So you can see the Kydex sheath here, multiple attachment options, although they're all, you know, it can do molly webbing, it can do hanging on a belt, but it's not set up for scout carry. you wouldn't be able to use it with this setup. You'd have to take this off and do a different setup. You can see if you just use the Kydex and the 4 screws, you could definitely readjust it to serve that role. Anyway, let's take a look at the knife itself. K490 steel, beautiful drop point, Moletta design. The handle is the same integral handle or similar integral style that they used on the M5. All right. And this, what you're looking at, is the T6. So, big, thick blade stock, crown spine, a little bit of a swedge here. See a teeny little bit of rust forming here, but it'll polish off pretty nicely. The blade is fairly thick behind the edge. And this is designed sort of to be a survival knife more so than, say, a skinning knife or something along those lines. So I wanted to kind of do a little bit of testing out here. I've got this bigger log and a few other pieces that we'll use in a minute for batoning. But before we get to that point, I thought let's see what kind of carving work we can do. So this is a piece I split down earlier. And you know, one of the advantages of a nice knife of this size is you do get a fair bit of control. All right. And you know, this is definitely in sort of the survival camp. So they've gone and done, you know, they've made this blade really thick so that you can just have, you know, high confidence that you're not going to break it or even damage the edge very much, roll the edge. You know, think about, I'll actually demonstrate this in a second, but think about if I'm batoning this in and I want to sort of break that piece of wood out that I've created. Because this knife is not long enough for chopping, right? This is not going to be this kind of task oriented, but it is definitely a big, substantial knife. So let me switch places. I'm going to get around in front of the camera and do a couple of little tasks just so you can see how this performs. I'm going to come up just a little bit so I've got a little more room to maneuver. All right, so at first I've just got this stick, and the idea is that we're just going to go ahead and baton through this. Kind of see how it bites in. Ouch. There's no really ideal position that I can get in here without risking myself or the camera. There you go. So you can see it will serve in that cross-cut roll fairly effectively. It's a little thick, which means you're going to have to pound on it a little bit more than some other knives, but you also have a little more confidence that you don't have to worry about breaking it. Let's go ahead and work. Actually, let's go from smallest to largest. So here's a smaller piece. We're going to imagine we're going to take this right down to kindling. So, you know, some small pieces like this, and then go ahead from here and start doing some curly cues to get a fire going. There we go. All right, let's go up. Here's a full half. As if there's any doubt this is going to work just fine. Well, unless I can't. Hold on, there's a stone around here somewhere. Oh, this will probably work. Perfect. So that works fine. Now I want to go up to this larger piece and just give you a quick look at how that works out. Okay, so you can see we're winning, but this is a pretty tough, gnarly piece of wood. And I'm having a hard time leaning on this heavily enough to keep it caught up. Killing a second baton. All right, guys, I'm going to pause this and work my way through, and I'll come back when it's done just to show you that we did succeed, but I don't think you want to watch the whole process. All right, so we're still stuck in here. Since I was going to switch to this, I thought I'd show it. So what I'm going to do here is, you can see I'm going to add a wedge, which will just nicely open this up for me. And that's a helpful thing to know if ever you are in this situation, especially if you have even a smaller knife than this. If you can get sort of a bit of a gap started, then from there you can go ahead and add a wedge to sort of finish the job. And there's the knot right there that was making this so difficult. And again, I might just hold it. There we go. So definitely not an easy one to manage with, but we did get through it, which is, I think, a testament to the durability of the T6 here. Let me get back here around the camera. So as you can see, pretty handy knife. Yes, it's a little thicker than perhaps some other options out there. It's also, although it is thick and it's heavy duty, you can really pound on this with a lot of confidence. It is not a great chopper. It's just too, like you can kind of get down here on it and do some chopping, but it's just not heavy enough or long enough for that. Then for that job, I would go up to the T7. All right, so there you go, guys. That's a little bit of testing and demonstration with the Lionsteel T6. Very beautiful, very effective cutting tool. We'll talk to you soon.